how do we prevent Trump-loving Republicans from reinventing themselves as Trump continues to go down in flames? How do we stop the fire that is burning across America in the form of COVID-19? This crisis has the capacity to be apocalyptic. We'll be discussing those topics in the first hour of our program, and the CDC and remdesivir and all this kind of stuff. In our second hour, I want to get into this whole issue of this COVID drug that we paid over $70 million to develop. The Supreme Court just handed down a decision on state funding for religious schools. I will get into that in some depth in our second hour. White supremacists infiltrating our police departments. We'll get into that in our second hour. And in our third hour, Kevin Camps of Beyond Nuclear is going to be with us. Nuclear waste heading to a town near you. Seriously, strange stuff going on. I mean, very, very strange stuff going on. But I want to start out with this whole issue of Republicans seeming to start to wake up. And what they're waking up to is the fact that Donald Trump is an incompetent, malicious, lying, delusional, white supremacist, dictator-loving racist whose stupidity and spite have led to the death of over 130,000 Americans and, a number that will no doubt be 250,000 by the time of the election. And the Republicans have known this all along. It's like all of a sudden they're starting to say, oh, gee, look at this. He's tweeting white power. How did that happen? Well, the Republicans, let me say that again, the Republicans knew this all along. Back during the 2016 primary, Republican candidate after Republican candidate after Republican candidate, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, take your pick. They were all saying, oh, he's a con man, he's a grifter, he's a racist, he's a psychopath. Just go back and look at the comments that they were making about Donald Trump. But these guys are cowards, and they are panderers, and they made the very clear decision when they entered politics as Republicans to put politics ahead of the public interest. I mean, that's what is required of you post-Reagan Revolution if you are a Republican. You must be willing to subordinate the public interest, public health be damned, the will of the voters be damned. It's the billionaires who count. Period. Full stop. And the billionaires want the economy opened again. They want their people going back to work, and a few of them will die, and a few of them will get sick, and a few of them will suffer permanent brain damage and permanent kidney damage and permanent eye damage and blindness and all these other conditions that it turns out 20-year-olds are getting. But hey, there's a long, long line of people standing behind the ones who are dropping dead in the billionaires' places of business who are more than willing to work for $12 an hour. Or even $7.50 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage, let us remind you. So, while Trump was popular with the Republican base, these Republican politicians were like, yeah, we love Trump. Yeah, let's go to a rally. Let's be seen with Trump. Let's fly on Air Force One. Let's not impeach this guy. And now that Americans are saying, hey, wait a minute. This is white Republicans, right? We were all in with Trump when he was just a racist, but now that he wants to kill us? No, I don't think so. I mean, that's what's going on. And then, oh, wait a minute, Trump was letting Russia pay bounties to kill our soul? I didn't have any idea. And a few of them are even saying, really? It's okay to have police violence against... Well, not very many Republicans are all that concerned about police violence against black people, but, a few. And the rest of America has woken the hell up, or at least is moving in that direction. So where does all this go? Well, yesterday, Mike Pence wore a mask in public and gave a speech, Now, keep in mind, this is the day after he showed up at a religious service with 3,000 people, with a choir of 100 people, singing their guts out, or their lungs out, we should say, without masks. That's what he did Sunday. Yesterday, he said, oh, you should wear a mask. Right. It seems small, but I actually think we're going to look back, I think, 6 months down the road, we're going to look back at yesterday, at June 29th, as the day that Mike Pence began running for president himself. And, this is a very, very interesting time. The Republican nominee, obviously, the primaries are over. But the party can pick anybody they want as their nominee. And when they have their convention in Charlotte, the actual getting together meeting convention, not the Jacksonville, let's have a party and all celebrate Donald Trump without masks. By the way, Jacksonville just said you got to have a mask. This is going to get interesting. Well, frankly, I don't think it's going to get interesting because I don't think it's going to happen. I am beginning to seriously think, and this is not an absolute prediction, but it's just like you watch Republicans and you watch how they're behaving. Back in the days when it was, just Jeff Flake in the Senate and what's his name in the House coming out and saying, Donald Trump isn't all that great a guy. And they got blown out of the water, right? Trump went after them, and all the Republicans just, pulled their heads back into their shells and played McTurtle. But if Pence pushes this, see, Pence has figured out Americans don't want to die. It's kind of sad that that's what it's taking, right? Donald Trump's selling off public lands to oil and gas mining companies and destroying our national parks, so that wasn't enough. Donald Trump gutting the Environmental Protection Agency. His first piece of legislation was to allow the coal companies to dump their slurry, their waste, into public rivers so that it hits downstream water supplies with things like, radioactive, with uranium and chromium and arsenic and, let's just poison a few million children. That was the first piece of legislation he signed, right? That wasn't enough. His efforts to gut the Affordable Care Act and take away health insurance from millions and millions of people, that wasn't enough. I mean, we've just had, just breathtaking. His being charged by 20 different women with rape or assault, that wasn't enough. But finally, he's killing Americans, 125,000 dead Americans, and more to come, and Donald Trump is doing nothing about it. In fact, what he has done is making it worse. That's why there's so many dead people. And finally, Americans saying, oh, wait a minute, he's trying to kill me? I thought he was just trying to kill, black people and keep women in the kitchen. I mean, me? And so now these Republicans are saying, oh, no, I'm not with Trump anymore. Come on. Remember who these guys are. They have no morals. They have no principles. They have no loyalty to our nation. Their only loyalty is to power and wealth. And don't let the media praise these guys. They embraced a criminal. They voted to keep him in office. They voted not to impeach him. And how history must remember their cowardice.